second. Hi guys, today we have wonderful guest, Gregory Landua from Regen network, one of the brightest minds of ReFi, regenerative finance. It's one of the biggest trends of our times in DeFi, in decentralized finance, trying to make our Web3 future way more responsible, way more honest in terms of heading to the right direction with the biggest trends and trying to solve the biggest problems of our times, like climate change. So, Gregory, could you help us? Could you help our audience to understand your unique approach with Regen Network? What kind of steps you are making in ReFi, and be the ambassador of ReFi for our audience, help us to understand what it's all about, because we know that it's not just the values, it's also money. And if we are willing to, let's say, to promote the values, we need to be interesting for our investors, we interesting for our followers. They need to understand that, yes, maybe they could make more money buying or selling apes or NFTs, but still they could make some pretty good money helping the projects like yours to create that responsible Web3 future. Help us to understand why it's valuable for crypto investors.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hi everybody, and yeah, I'm super grateful to be here, Aaron, and excited about the real world work that you all are doing as well. And yeah, I'm happy to kind of be a bit of an evangelist about regenerative finance and ReFi for the community out there. So taking a step back, I think that there's an enormously strong case to be made for the financial upside of regenerative finance. So what do we mean by regenerative finance? Generally speaking, we mean creating financial value based on ecological regeneration or sustainability outcomes, right? That's sort of the fundamental premise. And the first go-to-market approaches around this have really focused on carbon markets, because there's an existing $350 billion plus carbon market that happens. That's the largest, that's sort of like the carbon market writ large. And then there's a smaller chunk of that, which is the voluntary carbon market, VCM, which is probably worth more on the order of like $6 billion per year. But still, there's a market there. It's worth something. There's a price on the value of carbon. And taking a quick detour, many of your viewers might be asking, why does that exist? Why is there a price on carbon? Is it just sort of philanthropic, or is it greenwashing, or is it regulated? There's two trends here. One trend is what people refer to as ESG, or environmental, social, and governance, in which a lot of banks and wealth managers, insurance companies, really people quite core to existing TradFi financial industry, the traditional finance industry, have decided that climate change and other, we might say, like bad business practices in which you're sort of polluting the environment and making a mess of things, actually tend over time to put businesses at risk. Right. Yes. And so they're saying, because this puts business at risk, because this has financial risk associated with it, as shareholders and companies, we're going to hold executive teams and corporations responsible for, something beyond just quarterly returns.
So yeah. The logic behind all of that is seems like that. If we will have like 50 degrees, let's say in Austria or Germany, it's not easy to sell ice cream. It's like it's just becoming too expensive to produce a lot of things. It's affecting the manufacture. It's affecting the business world in general. So let's try to solve climate change problem just for the sake of our our capitals just for the sake of our corporations, just to operate properly, just to protect, let's say, our customer base, etc. So it looks like that. Do I understand the TradFi?
Yeah, the trad, and just like painting the picture, exactly, painting the picture for the conditions in which refi makes a huge amount of sense. And I'm going to get to why, why blockchain specifically and taking a decentralized approach and creating refi instead of just ESG is really going to be transformative. But let's just like, the takeaway of my previous statement there is there's existing big business in trying to green our economy because of financial risk, not just because of like greenwashing, right? There is greenwashing, there is downsides to all of this that all exists.
Like
right?
Sri Lanka. We know the Sri Lanka case.
I mean, the Sri Lanka case was really unfortunate, and they just sort of like pulled the ripcord, and there's all sorts of problems with that. But also there's also this genuine interest and realization across the globe that there's just big downside to global warming and environmental pollution, and it's bad for society and it's bad for business. Okay, that's like setting the context. So refi is sort of bringing more transparency and integrity and automation to this new emerging market around sustainability and regeneration. The first pilots are almost all in carbon markets, but there's also biodiversity, water quality, social benefit. There's people experimenting in a broad variety of sort of bringing value into the world that is based on regeneration instead of value extraction.
Okay, I just like the question from our audience, the question from the man with the name Hiroshi. He's asking why it's so important that to decentralize voluntary. I'm kind of restating his question, but why it's important to decentralize voluntary carbon credits market? Why it's important to make all of that on blockchain? What's the benefits, actual financial benefits, not like from ideologic, but just what's the financial reason to use blockchain in that type of voluntary carbon credits market? It's a hard question, by the way.
No, easy question. I mean, it's a super easy question. So at the top level, the existing voluntary carbon market, something like 80% of the credit value gets eaten up by middlemen before money gets, 80%, before money gets distributed to the party that is responsible for the carbon outcome, right? And in a blockchain system, something like 15% is efficiently distributed to people who are providing monitoring, reporting, verification, real services that are part of creating the value, right? And then there's a disintermediated marketplace where people can list it directly, buy it, sell it, but that money has gone directly into the hands of the person who's conserving the forest or transforming their agricultural outcome or whatever the sort of like the base unit is based on.
So you have that competitive advantage.
It's so much more efficient. It's so much more efficient than the existing market. You have more efficient price discovery. You have more efficient market mechanisms. You have increase in transparency. You have an immutable record of who has said what about where, using what data and what methodology to create what unit, and that's all bundled together in the metadata. So it radically lowers the cost of auditing. So we as customers, we will know, why is this unit valuable, right? And that allows us to be much more intelligent about, buying and selling or buying and using these ecological assets, these carbon credits.
Yes, definitely. Also, it's beautiful to know the story behind the credit I'm buying, to understand that I'm actually doing some right actions. So if the story, let's say rainforest, recovery or whatever beautiful story I have along with this carbon credit, it's way beautiful to buy that type of carbon credits and then tell that story to my customer base. It's first of all, but
Exactly.
it's kind of marketing. Let's talk regarding the money, regarding the bottom line. Even if you have the 40%, let's say, lost in a traditional finance, in traditional carbon credits markets, you could even get your commissions. I mean, like Regen network, like 5%, 10%. I don't know what's your actual commission, but you could distribute millions and millions among, let's say, your investors, because you have you still have that competitive edge. You cut down for 20 or 30% of middleman commissions, and that helps all of your investors, let's say, somehow to get real financial opportunities supporting that type of project. Because let's be honest, I know I'm still trying to push that idea of, if we are willing to change the world, we need to make it that attractive, and also from financial perspective, because it's the money, where the money flows, that will bring that opportunities, let's say, to actually start some great initiatives. Okay, let's move forward and let's try to understand what's real opportunities right now to sell or buy carbon credits with Regen network, because I guess you're creating some sort of marketplace, and correct me if I'm wrong. And is it possible right now to, let's say, somehow connect with the Regen network, or maybe just to buy that as a business? For example, let's start from the business perspective. Let's say I'm willing to be part of that voluntary carbon credits market. I'm somehow working in, let's say, financial industry. For example, I have a bank. Let's say I have a bank, it's international bank. Some of part of my bank is in Hong Kong, some parts of the bank in Latvia. No matter what, just some international financial unit, some sort of electronic money institution, and I'm willing, let's say, to represent myself as a project that helps to regenerate a rainforest or something like that. Could you help me? What should I do? What could I do together with Regen network? How to approach you, and how to? Because let's be honest, I have a lot of banking background, a new banking background, and I'm trying to understand. It's not just for Elmas, because Elmas is very responsible in terms of our agriculture, in terms of what we are promoting among our audience. Regarding the banking, they don't know about that. Some of them have enough money and ready to be responsible, but just explain them. Because if it's easy, if I could just because I guess you are on Cosmos SDK. It's kind of, you have your own blockchain. Correct me, it's so I could get myself a Kepler wallet. Then let's say go to Binance and buy myself a Cosmos token, then go to Osmosis, exchange Cosmos tokens to Regen tokens, and then easily somehow to buy that carbon credits. Help me to understand the process, and correct me if I'm wrong during that short explanation.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically, that's a good explanation. I will say the caveat is, at the moment, the marketplace is not open. So we've been doing pilot over-the-counter trades. So the blockchain is up. There are credits that have been issued. Some of them are moving. We've been doing protocol level offsetting. We offset the Osmosis chain. We offset the Stargaze chain. We're offsetting the Cosmos chain. We've offset a bunch of NFT work and other things. And so that's sort of like pilot moving. You know, it's humans doing CLI, moving the units around, you know, from account to account, and then issuing retirements. The user interfaces that are going to allow anyone, anywhere to be interacting with the marketplace are going to be shipping here in August, very soon. It's very exciting. There is a live proposal for Regen Network 4.0, the decentralized blockchain, the app chain, that includes the marketplace functionality, some really advanced data functionality for auditable credits and other things. So that's all coming in August, essentially. So the user experience in which someone can just show up on Regen Network, connected to Kepler, right, and buy a credit and retire it, or ship it over to Osmosis to a liquidity pool, or do other things with it, that's coming very soon. It's going to be
Wow.
rolling out over August and September. One of the nice things that's happening right now is Regen community has an allow list of different currencies that people can use in order to purchase these credits. That's under vote right now in the protocol. So you're not forced to use, the community can essentially choose to list certain currency types. And so I think we're going to see USDC. I think we're going to see Atom. People may choose to use Regen, etc. So you'll sort of be able to show up and use a stable coin or a widely distributed, maybe even Bitcoin, who knows, to be able to purchase those credits, which is fantastic. And then I think, the next layer after that will be coming, probably, I would honestly say like early next year, there'll be a full sort of, you can swipe your credit card or pay with fiat so that institutions can interact. And I will say we have an amazing partnership with a neobank called Earth Bank, which is which has actually been participating in a regulatory sandbox in Latvia. And they're based out of Sweden, so sort of a Nordic Baltic awesome company, and they are working with a bunch of large banks using Regen network carbon credits to start automating. So on the institutional side, we've already sold lots of credits to Microsoft. There's this banking crediting that's happening, all before we've sort of put up the sort of like the public facing shop, because we want to make sure there's sort of a velocity. We've worked out the kinks. So we've been running these sort of institutional level pilots because the institutional flows around carbon crediting as the first market that we're targeting is really the bulk of the marketplace. And so it really needs to work for those sorts of actors well.
I was part of Purify. It's an IML solution built on Crystal blockchain and CipherTrace. Oh no, wasn't CipherTrace, mostly Crystal blockchain. But the idea was we evaluating and making due diligence of your project like more than 1 year ago, or your early steps. I do recall that you was part of our research group. Or your project was inside, let's say, our research of that carbon emissions market. And also, I do recall some ideas to add that functionality to, let's say, crypto wallets, because I know a lot of crypto
we're
wallets.
just about to announce a really interesting partnership with a company that is specifically working to offset inside of wallets, which will be really exciting. So there'll be, and we're also doing the same with just blockchains. So there'll be essentially an API where you can get a lifecycle analysis of your blockchain or your wallet or your online interactions, and just sort of like get into an automated offsetting subscription, which is very, it's super exciting, right? And that'll be through another partnership. So, Regen Network, our role in this is really to create the legitimacy engine to drive the whole economy. So what we focus on is the integrity of the credits, the ease at which people can develop new methodologies and bring new credits to market, and the ease at which people can take those credits and bundle them into new instruments to be shipped off into this emerging refi marketplace, right? So I think there's a vision that we have in refi around this new commodity, which is regeneration, which is carbon drawdown, carbon sequestration, reduction of carbon, atmospheric carbon into forests, into agriculture lands, into new coral reefs, sort of driving this regeneration of the planet, creating units of account as a commodity that's flowing through a new economy, and then being able to start building a really powerful financial infrastructure on top of that. So if you can start to imagine, and again, this isn't necessarily what Regen Network does. We are the origination system. We're the legitimacy engine. We're there to ensure that the unit of account is only issued because something real has happened somewhere. That's what we do.
Regarding all of that, I will just try to simplify for our audience, because we're already starting to discuss it on let's say layer 2 infrastructure layers. We're going too deep. I will try to, let's say, just be clear for the sake of, let's say, real steps we could, as a community, to do with Regen network. For example, we could discuss a lot of things regarding, let's say, some sort of tracking of every transaction, and I could attach, let's say, that something information that I'm voluntary, some sort of offsetting the transactions I'm made. For example, I'm paying salaries. I'm paying salary, or I'm paying for money for some subcontractor, and I'm paying him, let's say, $20,000. But I'm also attaching some information to that transaction that makes traceable that I offsetting that transaction. So that sort of story could be part of. I don't know how is it possible or not, but that's a beautiful story. And this, but the most important story, I feel, it will be beautiful for, let's say, numerous users to use your solution. It's to get some sort of NFT. I know if I'm saving the rainforest, sending $100,000 or $50,000, and I'm offsetting that transaction, I'm willing to have some sort of NFT on my wallet that makes me understand that it's kind of achievement. I'm willing to have that as an achievement, trackable achievement in my financial history. It's just beautiful. It's not like I'm just willing to know that I'm somehow doing the right things with all of that. I could not hear you. I could not hear you, man, Gregory. I could not hear you.
Sorry, I muted. Exactly. I mean, I think in that reputation and NFT layer of things is very exciting and important. You know, I mean, one of the things that we are missing in our society is connection and meaning and a deeper sense of sort of like the identity that comes from doing good things to each other in a society that we had once a long time ago in villages. You knew when people were helpful and good, just because the social graph was smaller. But when we expand to a global social graph, oh, wow, you know, we need a way of tracking how we treat each other, what good we're doing for each other. And I think NFTs are a really powerful instrument for that. And it is certainly a big part of how we think about things. You know, each credit is essentially a fractional NFT, you know, that represents, as you said, specific place, specific action, specific data. Right. Yes. But also when you buy it and you retire it, it's essentially a non-transferable NFT. That's reputation. You can see who has interacted with that, and you can't transfer it. You can't swap it to somebody. You know, once you take the action to retire that credit, that is, you're taking credit for the good outcome that has taken place. Right.
Mostly, let's be honest. Mostly, it's like I'm not a future or let's say ambassador of self-sovereign identity, verifiable credentials, or some sort of, let's say, Chinese-like online reputation, like where you are pretending to be good just for the sake of, let's say, better credit score or whatever. I just like the idea to have a story of what I'm doing, just have a story of actions. I mean, like a beautiful pictures from some places. The same thing, like my story, the history of my life. That's the true beauty. It feels like that's the true beauty of that type of actions. And we as Elmas.Land, we're trying to promote that type of approach. It's not like for the sake of better credit score, just for the sake of having more fun living your life, trying knowing that your life makes that meaning, just for you, for yourself, for your friends, not to, let's say, get something out of that, just to have that let's say, feeling.
Well, I think it's a mix, right? Because I think there's two layers. There's the intrinsic motivation of sort of like the sovereign actors, which, you know, which is deeply important and interesting. But there's also the sort of like organization, network, or corporation accountability.
Yes.
Right? And those are operating at the same time. What's interesting is that those are two different market segments in a way for what we're doing, right? And on the sort of like individual meaning, intrinsic motivation level, the tools that we're building there have much more to do with building a relationship with a project over time that's very similar to what you all are doing, where you start to build a relationship where you could feel like you're going home, you're having a positive regenerative relationship, you can track that, your contributions are valued. But there's also this sort of like fungibility journey where some of this is producing a commodity, essentially a carbon credit, which is kind of exchangeable, and then people are buying it and then they're using it more for like the accountability, corporate accounting or protocol level accounting, or even as a financial instrument, right? But that full spectrum from unique and non-fungible, intrinsically motivated, deeply meaningful, up to sort of like fungible, commoditized, transactional, is spanned in the refi vision, right? So regenerative finance allows us to sort of move between those two poles of commodification and uniqueness, or non-fungibility and fungibility.
Okay, the quick question. Let's go for with another user story. For example, I'm agriculture producer. I'm part of let's say I'm a part of agriculture market, and somehow I'm generate that type of credits, and I could, let's say, to prove it. What's the possibility for me to create the additional revenue stream, working together with your marketplace, how to properly, let's say, connect to your marketplace and sell that carbon emissions, carbon credits, telling my story about my agriculture project, let's say somewhere in Brazil or whatever, and what's that user case will look like when you will launch your marketplace. I couldn't hear you. I couldn't hear, man.
I put myself on mute again. Yes, so sorry about that. So that's what we refer to as the registry user story, where someone is coming to register a carbon credit, for instance. And so I'll try to walk through the decision tree here. So you show up and you're maybe you're a project proponent for a indigenous group that is preserving a large landscape of forest. And okay, cool, there's an existing credit methodology being developed in partnership with Moss.Earth, which is an amazing group out of Brazil that's doing carbon crediting. Okay, I can monitor according to this specific methodology, and then that will tell me how many credits I will be able to be issued. I go through a very clear process and this is all interfaces online. I'm interacting, there's digital signatures accumulating, and then there's a minting process to my wallet, and then I'm able to list those in the marketplace, right? Or I'm a smallholder agroforestry farmer, and I'm growing cacao and bananas in a syntropic agroforestry farm, and I want to, I'm sequestering carbon because of my chop and drop and my composting process, and I want to be able to bring that carbon to market. So in that case, I sort of, there isn't actually a methodology. So I go and I say, oh, that methodology hasn't been published yet. There's a working group right now to develop that. Okay, so inside of the Regen Discord and Regen community, there's a group of people who are developing the smallholder agroforestry methodology. Very exciting. Do we contribute that, or do I just wait? And so there's a process that's taking place. So I could be contributing, and if I contribute enough to that methodology, as that methodology gets listed up on the marketplace, perhaps I'll also be accruing royalties as that methodology is used all around the world, as it's deployed in the marketplace for other people, right? And so you can sort of see there's an existing set of methodologies like holistic managed grasslands, right? That have and avoided avoided deforestation and other, and then there's a continuum. There's ocean conservation and regeneration projects. There's forestry and agroforestry. There's a whole variety of different things. Some of them are already available to be able to utilize, to be able to publish credits. into the marketplace. And some of them, there's active communities that are innovating and developing so that those credits can get listed on the market and become part of the livelihood of a farmer or a land steward somewhere around the world.
Okay, we have another very beautiful question from Ajir Hanushka. I don't know, am I reading that right? But Ajir Janushka, and he's asking about the killing features of your product. Because let's be honest, we had a conversation with KlimaDAO and others. Big players also are willing to create that marketplaces. And what's your main competitive advantages? Why we should stick with Regen network? I mean, not like Elmas.Land, but like the market itself. Why you will be way more attractive than your competitors?
But KlimaDAO doesn't originate carbon credits.
Got it.
They rely on someone like us to produce those carbon credits to fill their treasury. So there's really not much of a competition. I mean, KlimaDAO is not capable of originating carbon credits. And we have a partnership with Toucan, which is fantastic team that tokenized legacy carbon credits, but we see the challenges that they faced. The institutions shut that off, other things. What we're developing is a system for people to originate high quality carbon credits to be used in the marketplace to be used by Klima, to be used by Return Protocol or the Sync marketplace or any of these other actors. I believe we're really sort of the only ones as far along as we are. We've originated and sold credits. We have many people developing new credits, methodologies being listed, the marketplace is live. So we're really providing a different service in the ecosystem to Klima. We're not a competition to Klima, we're an enabler to Klima, right?
Wow, thank you so much. It's very important because right now we're understanding what's your unique place in the market. It was not clear even for me. It's if it's not clear even for me, it feels like it was not clear for most of my audience, and it's very complicated. It's very complicated just to understand the structure of that market. Maybe we need some sort of serious research published or something like that, just to, let's say, explain to the broad audience the structure of that regenerative finance. Do you have some sort of, let's say, analytics or whatever for the people that they could deep dive inside the DeFi just to understand the overall structure, the role of every actor, and the type of collaborations they have, just to let's say deep dive in that market? Because let's be honest, let's say Cosmos ecosystem. I know some investors from Cosmos ecosystem, some of the developers of Cosmos ecosystem, and just to know what to do, you need to deep dive. I mean, spend at least a couple of weeks to let's say evaluate every possibility. Let's say subscribe to every project to be successful investor, to know everything what's going on, to get the right information. Do you have said, let's say, could you help our, let's say, our people just to understand that market, just deep dive and know everybody who works in DeFi?
Probably not. It's an exploding space, right? And so, so that's a tall order, but I'll try. So here are the principles. The most important thing to ask, I think the most important thing to ask has to do with, is the project paying attention to the legitimacy of the claims that underpin the financial instrument or the product that they're building? If the answer to that is then no, then it's probably not really worthwhile. Number two, is there a GitHub? Are they building in public? Do they have a record of shipping things? If you're assessing, if you're in the business of assessing projects to support as an investor, and I'm kind of giving these basic, this is like headline, this isn't investment advice, but if you're thinking about doing due diligence on projects, look at their GitHub. Are they shipping code? Are they contributing? Are other people contributing? You can tell, are there project integrations taking place? Are they working with different teams? Like right now, you can see that Regen Network and Toucan are contributing to shared code base to build a bridge between us, right? And that there's activity, people are reviewing pull requests. I mean, in the crypto space, really at the end of the day, you need to be able to look at the velocity of the code deployment, the quality of the code. If you're trying to think about automated protocols for any of these things, decentralized protocols for any things, that's really the top of the list. You can't really rely on like the hype cycle and the partnership cycle and, all that other stuff. Another thing that I think is always important is, hop on and listen to, do they have a community call? Is there a place where the core team is interacting with the community and having conversations with are there other contributors, who's participating in those? Like what's taking place? Is there a public roadmap? Is the roadmap moving? These are sort of like the basic questions I think to pay attention to. And, I'll just say as a team and a project that's been at this for a while, I've been putting my whole life into this since very early 2017. Also, if it like reach out and just communicate with the people in the team and get a vibe from them, right? Because sometimes teams won't be able to keep up with the public roadmap and maybe they'll miss a week in the call. That's not necessarily the end of the world. Those are the things to quickly check, see if there's stuff happening, if there's a reality there. And that really goes for the entire crypto space, right? That's how you test the legitimacy of any project, deeper than just the hype, deeper than just like the Telegram or the Twitter bots or all of these other things that people use to mask and create FOMO. Is there building taking place? Is there solidity? Is there something solid underneath it? That's all really important. And then I think in the refi space, in terms of like the thesis, again, to me, I would sort of shy away from projects at this stage that are overly emphasizing liquidity, that are overly emphasizing hype and market price. And at this stage, there's a lot of foundational work to be done just around legitimacy, origination, data, science. And these tend to be longer research and development, and so you really, the hype, it's not about hype, it's about building a rigorous community of contributors, of science, of farmers, and those aren't hypey projects. And so, at this stage of the game, I would tend to advise, just be wary of the hype cycle and try to do a little bit more due diligence and try to develop relationships and support projects that are really doing hard work and solving important problems that need to be solved in order for the hype to be real.
Okay, let's talk about the methodology, because you, as you already mentioned, you're developing that methodology, creating unique groups, trying to adding something to that offsetting methodology with the absolutely unique technical solutions or agriculture tech solutions or whatever. But let's talk about that. Let's say somebody invents something very interesting in terms of offsetting carbon credits, and you actually let's say support that type of credits. What about the overall market? How it will do you have that ability to push the overall market to accept that credits, or what's going on inside that methodology developing? Let's sort of.
I mean, the short answer is yes. I mean, I think we've proven that we can push market acceptance if the methodology is robust, right? So I think, yeah, I mean, I think the answer is yes. If people have a novel approach to accounting for greenhouse gas reduction or avoided emissions, I think there is market acceptance of this being sort of registered on Regen. That's why we have rigorous peer review process and other elements to sort of support that. So I think there is market demand there, and sort of there is already sort of like a proven bit. There's pre-orders for new credits that are coming online. There's some pretty significant advanced market commitments that we're working on publishing and have been pulling together people around. So generally speaking, I feel pretty confident about that that if you have if you have a rigorous, real approach, then there's a market for that, for sure.
Okay, please tell us more about your team, because you already mentioned it's very important to know that it's not just one person, one-man show. It's very important to understand the team behind the project, what kind of, let's say, scientific groups you're working with, what kind of, let's say, the brightest minds standing behind your shoulders and helping you to, let's say, create that revolution.
Yeah, well, so first off, let's zoom out. There's a whole ecosystem. So let's name the players in the ecosystem, and then I'll talk more about the team at Regen Network Development Incorporated, which is the software and science company that I'm the CEO of. So at the ecosystem level, there's 75 validators running a public proof of stake blockchain. They're validating on every continent in the world except for Antarctica right now. So there's a broad distribution. A lot of those validators are heavily engaged with governance, with shipping code, with engaging in different things. Some of them are even project developers or methodology developers working on open science approaches in addition to running the compute nodes. So that's a big pillar of our community, is the validator community. From there, there's Regen Foundation. Regen Foundation is a 501c3. It's the first 501c3 in the United States that got its tax exempt status for being a natively crypto company that's part of managing a crypto network. It's there to endow and support indigenous people, land stewards, and science groups to be part of the network. So it isn't just, hey, you have to go buy, proof of stake tokens, but there's sort of this hybrid approach where there's a non-transferable stake being distributed to community groups, and there's I think 8 of them in the first cohort. Go look at regen.foundation. You can look more there. There's amazing work going on, a great team. There's R&D Inc., the company that I'm the CEO of. We have 37 full-time employees right now, distributed around the world. There's 2 main sections of our team. One is engineering and one is science. Over the years, we have an incredibly talented engineering team, top-tier blockchain engineering team. R&D Inc. maintains the Cosmos SDK. So the software that people use, that the Cosmos Hub uses, that Binance uses, that Osmosis uses, that Stargaze uses, and Juno uses, and there's hundreds of blockchains using the Cosmos SDK. Our engineering team is the technical lead of that software. So we have a contract to do that work. We've been doing it for several years. That's part of how we got through the last bear cycle, is we had been, because we have our own needs for this application-specific blockchain focused on our use case, we inherited that work because we were the biggest contributors to that open source code base. We were trying to make it better for ourselves and for everybody else. And eventually the Interchain Foundation came to us and said, hey, would you mind maintaining the software? So we
let me clarify. You are one of the biggest contributors of Cosmos blockchain.
We are the biggest contributor to the Cosmos SDK, which is the software that runs the Cosmos ecosystem.
You should start your story with that, because you could.
We're as legit as it gets, basically. So, and I don't want to undermine, Interchain IG, Interchain Berlin contributes hugely. They've got a big team that's doing stuff. We don't maintain Cosmos Core, the consensus. The Interchain Berlin is doing that. Informal, that has a huge, there's a distributed group in the Cosmos. Cosmos is the most decentralized, I think, the most decentralized, legit engineering ecosystem in the whole crypto space. And we're one of the big players in that. And we maintain the Cosmos SDK, right? That's part of what our engineering team does. We also maintain the Regen Ledger, which is the specific instance with custom code, custom modules, specifically for our application-specific blockchain for the origination of ecological assets and a marketplace for them, right? And then that's not all. We have a globally leading science team that has produced and sold cutting-edge methodologies using remote sensing and machine learning and on-the-ground sampling right? And now that science team is there to support the ecosystem. So we peer review methodologies, we support people in developing new Python scripts. We're basically there as an enabler, right? That science team does amazing work with groups from all over the world to help them upgrade their approach and ensure that it is legit, because we've already gone on that journey before. So that's R&D Inc. That's the company that I'm CEO of. And then, you know, in the ecosystem, there's other players as well. We have Cerulean Ventures, which is a VC fund which focuses on investing in startups in the ecosystem that are going to bring new eco credits to market. So they're both in a process of raising, but they're also deploying capital. And so they're really an amazing flywheel to engage with. You can find them on Twitter, Cerulean Ventures, and they support infrastructure level, sort of early stage investment and people bringing new credit classes and technologies to market. You know, then in addition to that, there's over 40 different groups, as I mentioned, developing new eco credits. And so if you you can go, I think almost all this is on regen.network, but there's a page, there's a Notion page that's community curated called Built on Regen. And if you go on Built on Regen, you can see a wide variety of different methodologies and projects and approaches to people bringing new credit classes into the marketplace. And there's a ton of them. And some of them are like, you know, there's just incredibly inspirational work. There's stuff that's collaborations with MIT Media Lab and Yale School of Forestry and the Ministry of Agriculture of Ecuador. I mean, there's just an enormous amount of rich, beautiful work that's taking place. Open source, open science, fully collaborative, really inspiring.
You know, that huge trend of decentralized science, DeSci, we're just heading towards. I hope you will share with my colleague Julia that link. I will add that to our, let's say, our video, because more than 63,000 of people looking at what you're describing right now. So feels like it's just important to.
Wow, that sort of blows my mind. So, you know, my colleague Ned Horning, who's on the science team, has been leading our DeSci approach, and we're so fully down to collaborate, right? Decentralized science, open science, this is so core, right? I'm so passionate about it and so excited about it. You know, when we take a closed, and this is the big competition right now, is between siloed, closed, proprietary approaches to carbon accounting, to carbon crediting, versus open, permissionless. You know, I get so upset at sort of like the climate finance VC community continuing to pour money into approaches that are closed source and siloed, when what we need as a civilization is we need open science, we need information parity, we need to be able to understand what is happening where in the global carbon cycle in a local instance. And we can't build the markets of the future if we continue to rely on closed source proprietary scientific approaches. And that's one of the most exciting things about using Web3, about using blockchain, is that we can design incentive mechanisms and token economies around an open source approach, right? That's transformative. If we have an open science approach and a decentralized science approach at the base layer of the climate finance movement, it will be revolutionary, it'll be transformative. If we don't, I really don't think we're gonna go very far, basically.
It sounds just a great honor to be with you today. It's not words, it's actual honor to be with you today. Regarding what's the easiest way to reach you? I mean, if somebody sitting right now with brilliant projects, maybe say they are developers of successful crypto wallet or crypto exchange, and they just willing to reach you, what's the easiest way to reach you? Let's say to create some JV or some sort of projects together, I mean, big projects together, because I do realize that I will ask this question, how to connect with your community, just what to read, how to deep dive in your ecosystem. It will be the next question. But let's start with something big, because if you are, let's say, maintaining all of that, let's say, base for the whole industry, how to connect with you for the
Well,
biggest
I mean, Twitter, honestly, Gregory _ Landua on Twitter. My DMs aren't open, but I always go and check every week. I go check my DMs. So if we're not mutually following, I'll get it. I'll follow you back. I'll respond if it's important. It's how I sort of filtered spam and stuff. So that's easy. That's the easiest way. It's pretty effective. And then we can take it from there, and we sort of like move it over to email, schedule a conversation or a call, and chat. And then, you know, I can forward on. There's also, if you go to the website, we have great people managing the pipelines for land stewards or scientists. So if you're interested, there's information at regen.network about how to get involved, and people respond to those emails. So there's also, I'm just sort of jumping ahead. There's an active Discord server. There's the science community is engaged there. The developer community is engaged there. Go jump in, introduce yourself. You know, I will say a lot of the process and people who are involved in our network are subsurface. It's not a hypey crypto, you know, cycle. So the Discord server is like the tip of the iceberg. So don't get disheartened. You know, it's like people check there on a weekly basis, they contribute, and then they go back. They're scientists. They're working, you know, they're working on doing things that take weeks and weeks or months and months or years and years to develop. And then they'll share back. And so we tend to be, although we're moving very fast for the industry that we're in, it isn't a crazy, you know, hype cycle kind of community. It's a different cohort of people who are engaged. So just everybody recognize that.
Thank you. Okay. The next question will be, what about to become your validator? Because I know the Cosmos SDK, we're trying to integrate with Akash network. They have, yes, I love that guy.
Great. Yeah.
Yes. So could you just negotiate with the guys from Akash so I just could, let's say, for example, just press one button and host a node become a Regen network validator, because it's very important.
I'll ask Greg about that. I mean, yeah, you can run nodes, you can run validators. My understanding is you can run a validator for Cosmos SDK project in Akash. I should check back in and see where that all is. I think people are doing it. You know, running a validator is non-trivial, right? You know, and the Cosmos vision of that is that there are professional validators who really look out for security instead of sort of like just anybody doing it from anywhere. That's a difference of approach. There are trade-offs. I don't want to opine one way or the other. We chose one way, right? But you know, running a validator, being a delegator to validators is an important thing, and that's quite easy, right? You run over to Osmosis, grab some regen, stake it on a validator. You're participating in governance. You can override their votes programmatically. Like, you really have a lot of power. Running a validator, there is a professional threshold. You need, you know, a certain amount of capability and competence. You also need some stake. And so right now, only the top 75 validators by stake are actively in the set and earning rewards. Now, if there's a big demand for more people to participate as validators, the governance will continue to expand that validator set. But we want the economics to work for the validators who are securing the network. So that's a balance.
Okay, how much should be at stake to become a validator? So should we invest 1,000, 10,000?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me just bring up. So I'm just going to go over to Kepler, my Kepler wallet, or actually maybe I'll go to MintScan, which is a great block explorer for the whole Cosmos ecosystem. And I'm just going to pop over to Regen, and I'm going to have a quick look at the validators on Regen. And so I'm just having a look at the top. So 93,524 Regen is the limit. So you need about just short of 100,000 Regen.
And what's the current price of the
Regen's current price is 32 cents.
32 cents. So it's like $30,000 should be at stake. So,
yeah.
Yeah, so to become your validator, it's pretty much it's a big number. I mean, for the play, just for because I like that to play that game, just becoming validator for the projects I like or I think it's important. But it's not so big if you have, let's say, enough money. But
Yep.
it's very important things to do, because if you are creating a real decentralized future, the biggest things you could do, not just invest in a project, but becomes the validator of that project. Because
100%. I 100% agree. I'm active in also in validating in networks that I believe in. And I think securing each other and sort of creating that community is really important, right? And contributing, becoming, I mean, that's what's so beautiful about DWeb or Web3, the crypto community, is that at its core is this community of people who are dedicated to contributing, to being hackers, to like, if there's a problem, I want to help you solve it. Not just
yes,
sort of observe and invest, but actually contribute and engage.
I like that you are so into Cosmos, let's say, Cosmos ecosystem, because it just very responsive community, and I have a lot of geniuses from that space, and it feels like it's a wonderful place to put the project of that importance like yours inside the hands of that community. It's like it's a very beautiful community, by the way. So it was truly honestly was beautiful talk, beautiful conversation. I hope our viewers get a lot of information out of that. I hope to see you someday on some decentralized science some panel, because I'm thinking to create that panel and discuss the decentralized science. It's very important topic, and I will try to, let's say, create the panel discussion for the future of decentralized science. So thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for that wonderful conversation.
The honor was all mine, Aaron, and yeah, really excited to be exposed to your community and to see how, there's probably a lot of synergy. You all are doing things in the real world, and so are we. So yeah, just super grateful for your time and for everybody's time that's out there listening. And I guess my parting words would be, we're all going to regenerate Earth together. So let's do it.
Thank you so much. I will come back to you with a real project. I mean, in terms of weeks, we have a very beautiful way to creating carbon credits, and I'm willing to discuss that with you. I hope we will find some new methodology, and we'll try to understand what kind of methodology we could develop together. Thank you so much.